Crossroads. My name is Leanna, and I am happy to tell you that for the next 3 Sundays, we will be looking at the simple yet challenging idea of helping others. This series was made with the children who are watching specifically in mind, but helping others extends to everybody, and the truths will that you learn here will benefit you, regardless of your age. How the service will proceed is first we'll sing a few songs, then we will listen to some important Bible verses being read, and finally, we've been invited for this series to listen in on Mrs. Young and Carlos's video calls. They have them regularly now that they can't see each other in person, and they are going to be helping us as we go forward and help others. But first, let's bow our heads and pray. Thank you, Lord, for today, a day we can learn together while being apart. Please strengthen our church family and help us to be generous with our resources. Amen.
During these 3 Sundays, Mrs. Young and Carlos are teaching us about helping others. And I thought it would be fun to choose a theme song to go along with their lessons and that we can sing all 3 Sundays. So the song that we're singing as our theme song is This Little Light of Mine. Matthew 5:16 says that we're to let our light shine before men that they may see our good works and glorify God in heaven. Helping others is a way that we can let our light shine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go,
verses 7 to 10. If anyone is poor, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward them. Rather be open-handed, give generously to them, and do so without a grudging heart. 1 John chapter 3 verses 17 to 18. If any one of you has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in you? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. James chapter 2 verses 15 to 16. Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith, by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead.
Luke 3:11. Anyone who has 2 shirts should share with the one who has none, and anyone who has food should do the same.
Hey, Carlos?
Hi, Mrs. Young.
Hello, Carlos. How nice to see you again. What's new?
New York, New Year's Day, and Newton's.
Newton's?
Yeah, Fig Newtons. Soft, square cookies with figs in them.
Oh, I know Fig Newtons. Those are yummy.
Yes, but we don't get them much. We have to be very careful with our money now, so we don't buy a lot of cookies.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Are you and your family doing okay?
Yes, Mom's job was cut, but she gets EI, and since my uncle lives with us, he helps with groceries and stuff like that.
Oh, that's good. You know, we've been praying a lot for people during this pandemic. Some people need more help than others.
Want to help me?
Well, of course I do. What can I do to help you?
Give me ideas for my Lego helping board.
Are you still doing Lego boards? I remember those mystery boards you did last summer, the ones with Sylvester. Those were great. What are you working on now?
I'm making a helping board to show ideas for how to help in the pandemic or anytime.
I know that you help your mother a lot by taking care of Louisa, your little sister.
Yes, I already have a family on my board to show that we can be extra kind and helpful to our family. Let me get it and show you.
Okay. Oh, that's a good view. You've got a good beginning on that helping board. And I see the family.
The baby is in my arms to show that I'm taking care of her.
Oh, let's see. Oh my, what a cute baby. You made her specially, I think.
Yes, this way she's small enough for me to hold. So, what else shall I put on the helping board?
I know what might give you ideas. Today in the Crossroads Church service, we're going to be talking about 3 ladies in the Bible who were really good at helping others. Maybe, if you listen closely, you'll get good ideas for your helping board.
Sure. What are the ladies' names?
Oh, well, we don't know the names for 2 of them. We just know the towns where they lived. The 3rd one was named Tabitha or Dorcas.
Tabitha or Dorcas?
Yes.
Like I'm named Carlos or Finkelheimer? And like you're named Mrs. Young or Mrs. Old,
You are not named Finkelheimer, and I am not Mrs. Old. I'm not that. I'm kind of a young, an old, young. Well, I'm Mrs. Not as young as I used to be.
okay, I'll stick with Mrs. Young. It's easier to say.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Tabitha or Dorcas? What with that?
Oh, well, Tabitha was the way you say her name in the Aramaic language that they talked back then. If you were going to say the same name in Greek, it would be Dorcas. Both Tabitha and Dorcas mean gazelle. She was named after the lovely type of antelope called a gazelle.
Okay, I will listen and see what two girls and a gazelle can suggest for the helping board.
All right, that sounds good. I'll talk to you later, Carlos.
Bye for now.
Isn't it nice to see during this pandemic how many people are finding creative, thoughtful ways to help others? Over the next 3 weeks, our Crossroads services will focus on how to help each other. It's something we should be doing all the time, but especially during difficult times. I imagine you've found some good ways to help people, your family, your friends, maybe even people on the other side of the world. Let's see if we can also get ideas and encouragement from these 3 ladies in the Bible who knew how to help others. The first lady wasn't rich. She wasn't even just poor. She had almost nothing. In fact, she thought soon she would die. I wonder how she could help anybody. Well, the story is told in 1 Kings 17, and I'll tell it to you like it's told there. The prophet Elijah was in danger. He had taken a very stern message to King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, and they did not like it. They did not want to hear that they were supposed to stop worshiping idols and worship only the one true God. They did not want to hear that they had to change their ways and be good and kind. They certainly didn't want to hear anything more from Elijah. So they chased him away. They threatened to kill him. Elijah had to run for his life out into the wilderness. You probably remember the story, how he lived out there in the wilderness beside a brook called Kerith. He could drink water from the brook, and the food was brought to him twice a day by big black birds called ravens. They would arrive with food in their beaks and claws for Elijah to eat. That worked well for quite a while. But soon, Elijah noticed that the brook was beginning to dry up. Well, you can't live very long without water. He was going to have to move. But where? He didn't want to go anywhere close to where King Ahab and Queen Jezebel lived, that was for sure. What should he do? Fortunately, God had a plan. And he said to Elijah, I want you to move now to the town of Zarephath. A widow will help you. A widow? A widow could help him? A widow was a lady whose husband had died. And back in those days, ladies didn't work outside the home to earn money. Only the man did that. So when the husband died, the woman, the wife, and the children were very poor. How could a widow help Elijah? And there was another puzzling thing. He was supposed to go to Zarephath? That was a town in the country of Sidon. And Sidon was the very country that Queen Jezebel had been raised in. That was her country. She moved to Israel when she married King Ahab, but she was from Sidon. And now Elijah was to go there to get help from a widow. Well, Elijah trusted God, so he set off on the long walk to Zarephath. It was a town in the country of Sidon. It took a long time to get there, but eventually he approached the town. And as he did, he saw a woman out. It looked like she was picking up sticks. And all of a sudden Elijah knew this is the woman who will help me. What he didn't know was that this woman was very, very sad. She worked slowly. Her heart was very heavy. As he got closer, Elijah spoke to the woman. "Please, would you fetch me a drink of water?" The woman went to put down her basket of sticks and set off to get him a drink from the well. Even in her sadness, she remembered to be kind. Elijah called after her, "Oh, and could you bring me something to eat too? I'm very hungry." The woman turned back and faced him and said sadly, "I'm sorry. I'd like to, but I can't. I've been collecting these sticks for a fire so I can cook the last meal that my son and I will ever eat. All I have left in the house is a little bit of flour in the bowl and a few drops of olive oil in the jar, just enough to make a small loaf of bread. After we've eaten that, we'll starve to death." Elijah answered her, "Don't be frightened. Just do as I ask. Make a little loaf for me first, and then use the rest to make a loaf for yourself and your boy. God promises that as long as this drought lasts, your bowl will never run out of flour, and your jar will never run out of oil." The woman believed Elijah. She trusted God, and she went off to do as he had told her. She used the last of her flour and the last of her oil to make the 2 small loaves of bread, just enough for one meal. God's promise came true. There was enough for the 3 of them to eat that day, but not only for that day. Elijah stayed in her house, as God told him to do, and each day there was enough flour in the bowl, enough oil in the jar to make that day's bread. There was always enough to feed all 3 of them as long as the drought lasted. God supplied Elijah's needs through the generosity of that poor lady, his need for water and food and shelter. They were all answered when he met her. God supplied the widow's needs and the son's needs too, for food and for a good friend like Elijah. Elisha was a helper of Elijah. They worked together for many years. After Elijah died, it was Elisha who went around helping people, teaching them, telling them about God, and making sure that the leaders were doing a good job of leading, that they knew the right things to do, and that they were doing them. In 2 Kings 4, we read of a great kindness that a lady did for Elisha. Elisha didn't live all the time in one town or one city. He traveled around, teaching and helping as many people as he could. One day he came to the town of Shunem, and a rich woman, the wife of a farmer, invited him to dinner. It was a pleasant meal, and all 3 of them enjoyed the conversation. A friendship began to develop. She said to him kindly, "Come and eat with us whenever you are in this area." So, many times Elisha shared meals with his new friends. He knew he could knock on the door at any time, and he'd be welcomed in gladly. One day the woman said to her husband, "Elisha comes often to Shunem. He's a very good man. He's a man of God. Shall we build him a room of his own, so that he always has somewhere to stay?" And her husband agreed that she should go ahead with that project. Back in those days, in that part of the world, most houses had flat roofs. They weren't sloped up to a peak like our roofs often are. They were flat. That flat roof was used a great deal. It could be used for storing things. The houses were often very small, and so this gave you other places to store things. You could do chores up there, like weaving or preparing food, baking the bread, mending the clothes. There was lots of light and lots of room to do your work. It was a great place to dry the clothes after the wash, or you could dry food for storing them, dates, figs. Let the sun do the work drying them out. You could sit up there and clean the grain. You could visit with people. You could relax in the cool evening, and if the night was hot, you could even sleep up on top of your house. But some people put an extra room on the top. They left some room for working, but they made a little, kind of a small house on top. And that could be used perhaps for another family to live there or for other purposes. So the woman decided she wanted a room on the top of her house. She set to work. She called a builder, and he came. She said, I want a room on the top of my house. And he brought his tools and the materials that he would need. And she called a carpenter. And she said, I'm going to need a bed, a table, and a chair. So they set to work. Soon, the area around her house was littered with all the tools and materials that the men needed, and there were happy sounds of saws and hammers as the work progressed. When everything was finished, and the room was all ready, the woman could hardly wait for Elisha to come next. And when he did, she brought him upstairs and she said, Elisha, we made this for you. This is your home. There was a table, a chair, a bed. She even put a lamp on the table for him. She said, this is somewhere safe and comfortable that's just for you. You can pray here, study here, rest and sleep. Later on, the Bible tells a wonderful story of how Elisha was able to help this family. That's another story for another time. But for now, let's just notice how that Shunammite woman helped Elisha by using her money to give him meals, and then by building a room to be his home away from home. Those were great ways to help. Those two stories were from the First Testament. The one I'm going to tell you now is from the New Testament. Tabitha was a Christian lady whose name in her language, Aramaic, means gazelle. She was named after the lovely, speedy antelope called a gazelle. If you spoke Greek, her name would be Dorcas. At any rate, Tabitha was a lovely lady with a lovely name. The Bible story in Acts 9 tells us that what made her so lovely was that she was always doing good and helping the poor. She did many kind things for people. She brought food to people who were hungry. She helped people who were sick. She went to visit lonely people. And the Bible says that one thing she especially loved doing was making clothes for people. She would make or buy the fabric that she needed, cut it out, sew it together, and make clothes for children or adults who needed them. She could make tunics and robes and head coverings, whatever they needed. Tabitha brought joy to others. She was a very well-loved lady. She was their friend. Everyone appreciated her and the help that she brought. One day an awful thing happened. Suddenly Tabitha got sick and she died. The people were so sad. Oh, how they would miss Tabitha. Someone knew that Jesus' friend Peter was in a town nearby and that he had a lot of God's power. So two men went there as quickly as they could and asked Peter, would he come at once to Joppa, Tabitha's town? Peter saw how upset they were, and he came back immediately with them. When he got there, he was taken to the place upstairs where Tabitha's dead body had been laid. Many people were up there, and many of them were ladies who Tabitha had helped. And they showed Peter the garments that she had made when she was alive. and they told him how much help she had given others and made them happy meeting their needs. Peter sent everyone out of the room. Until it was just him and Dorcas there, and Peter prayed to God. Then he turned to the dead woman and he said, "Tabitha, get up." She opened her eyes. She sat up. Peter took her by the hand and she stood up. She was alive. Peter called the people back in, especially those poor ladies, and he said, "Here's your friend again. Here's Tabitha. God's power has raised her up." How happy the people were to see their friend again. She was loved so much because she brought joy to others. She used her time, her money, her abilities to help. Do you do that too? Do you find ways to help your parents, your brothers and sisters, your friends, your teachers, your neighbors? Anyone who needs your help. We can all learn to do that. Maybe you can't sew like Tabitha, or maybe you can. But you can find your own ways to bring joy to others as you help them. Those three ladies, along with their friends Elijah, Elisha, and Peter, lived long ago in Bible times. Now I'll tell you about some very good ladies who work today, helping people by giving them food, water, care, and a place to live. 70 years ago, in 1950, a Roman Catholic nun named Teresa was very sad to see so many starving, homeless, sick people where she lived in Calcutta, India. She was fairly young when she started a group called the Missionaries of Charity, who work among the poorest of the poor. She worked for the poor and with the poor for 47 years, until she died. India had many poor people, hungry, sick, homeless, lonely, no jobs and no hope. God loved those destitute people and put it in Teresa's heart to help them. The help that she began to give in 1950 continues today, even though Mother Teresa died 24 years ago. The Missionaries of Charity still run houses in which people serve the poorest of the poor. Those people are blessed with help and love by Mother Teresa's co-workers and friends. Here's how it all got started. Mother Teresa knelt beside a man lying in the gutter of a Calcutta street. His eyelids flickered. His breath came in gasps. He was so thin his ribs all stood out, looking like a birdcage. This man was dying, out on the street, alone. "Taxi!" she called out. When a rickshaw cab stopped, she said, "Take me to the hospital with this man, quickly." A driver looked at the man's diseased body and drove away without them. After several more tries, Mother Teresa gave up on getting a ride. She borrowed a wheelbarrow from a workman, gently lifted the dying man into it, and wheeled him to the nearest hospital. But the hospital wouldn't take him. "We can't do anything to help him. We only have room for people who might get better. Besides, he doesn't have money to pay us." She was told to take him away. No place for a dying man except on the street? Mother Teresa shook her head sadly, took the man home with her, caring for him until he died. She told the other nuns who lived with her, "We need a home where those who are very ill can die in peace, tenderly cared for by loving people." She went to city officials to see if they would help her find a place to care for the dying. They showed her some rooms that travelers used when they came to visit the temple of a Hindu goddess. The rooms were filthy, but Mother Teresa accepted them immediately. She named the home Nirmal Hriday, Place of the Pure Heart. The nuns worked hard to clean it up and make it beautiful. Soon it was filled with men and women no one else wanted to help. But some of the neighbors were angry. They didn't think a Christian should be in the rooms that were part of a Hindu temple. One day, a group of tough young men blocked Mother Teresa's way. "If you don't leave, we will kill you," they threatened. Mother Teresa shrugged and said, "If you kill me, I will just get to heaven sooner." Puzzled that she wasn't afraid of dying and wasn't afraid of being hurt by them, the tough guys backed off. But still the neighbors complained. These Catholic nuns might make Hindus want to be Christians, and that was against the law. They sent a policeman into Nirmal Hriday to kick out the nuns. In went the policeman, ready to do his job. What he saw amazed him. 2 young women were gently washing the dirt from a very old man just off the street. Another sister was feeding a feeble man who could hardly swallow, and she was so gentle, kind, and patient with him. Nearby, another nun was stroking the face of a man with sores all over his body. When he saw the policeman, he whispered weakly, "I have lived like an animal on the street, but I died like an angel, loved and cared for." When the policeman found Mother Teresa, she was carefully picking maggots, little worms, from an open wound in a man's face, talking soothingly to him the whole time. The policeman went back outside to where the angry neighbors were waiting. "I will throw out those nuns," he said, "when your mothers and sisters take their place and do what they're doing for people who are dying." Needless to say, they didn't want to. Mother Teresa and her nuns stayed there and are still there, and in many other places around the world, treating others the way they would like to be treated. They give people water, food, medicine, a home, and gentle love. So, those are 3 Bible examples and one after the Bible example of people who found excellent ways to help others.
Those ladies gave me ideas for the helping board.
Good. What did you come up with?
Food and clothes. Some people need those.
Yes, those ladies gave food or clothes to needy people.
I'm going to put a house on the board too. Elijah and Elisha each got a place to live because kind ladies helped them.
Well, there are still people who don't have a roof over their heads. It would be a wonderful thing to find a home for them too.
Those Bible ladies help people, and nowadays the ladies of charity also give sick people food and a home. Plus, they help with medicine. I'll put some medicine on the helping board.
Well, that's many excellent ways to help others. Now, how do we do it? What can regular people like you and me do?
Well, for starters, we can give food to the food bank. Oh, we could even organize a food drive. We could ask everybody in our neighborhood to give a little bit, and we'll deliver it to the food bank as one big gift.
That is a great idea.
Oh, and how about giving money to MCC to make wells so people can have good water?
That's another great idea. Oh, Carlos, you're on a roll.
Finding houses for people is harder for a kid like me to do.
Yes, but there are organizations that do that, like Habitat for Humanity. We could support them with money and with manpower, like actually working on the projects.
Oh, and sometimes we can see if there are people who could live with us for a short time or a long time. Like my uncle, he can't afford to live alone right now because his job isn't full time. So he lives with us And that's great for all of us.
We could also support some of the shelters and the low-income housing in our city. You know, God gave us brains so we can figure this stuff out. We can figure out ways to meet people's needs for shelter and food and medicine and clothing and all those things. You know what? You keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, keep your brain working. You'll come up with other ways to provide things like that. So, we can give things like food and clothes and medicine and houses, but next Sunday we'll also look at how to help people by intangible means.
Intangible? Isn't a tangible a sort of little orange?
Oh, there is a fruit called a tangerine, but I said tangible. Tangible means something you can touch, like food or house or clothes.
So, I can also help people by untouchable ways?
Yes, we can help in ways that don't involve things, like food or clothes or money.
So, will you talk about that?
Yes, next Sunday I will. In the meantime, I guess you can add to your helping board the things that we heard about today.
I will show it to you next time we chat.
Good.
Did you notice something about the 3 Bible ladies you talked about?
What?
The first lady was very poor, so poor that she was going to die of starvation if Elijah hadn't come.
That's absolutely right. I mean, I think it says she was getting ready to make the last meal that her son and her would ever eat.
The next lady was rich.
True again. The Bible said that she was well-to-do, and it even called her a leading lady of the town.
And I'm not sure about Gazelle.
Gazelle?
Well, if you can call her Tabitha in one language and Dorcas in another language, why can't you call her Gazelle in English?
Okay, that's an interesting point. Just hang on. Interesting point, Freeman.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, Freeman.
That's not my name.
The name Carlos means free man in English. I looked it up.
Okay. I'll be Freeman if she can be Gazelle.
All right, so Freeman, you were saying?
Gazelle might have been rich or poor. You didn't say one way or the other.
Well, the Bible doesn't tell us exactly. My guess is that she was somewhere in the middle, not rich and not poor. She certainly had enough money to make or buy cloth that she would, cut out and make into clothes for people, plus money to give food and other things that people needed.
Maybe Gazelle was rich then.
Maybe. But back then it was common for rich Christians to give a lot of their wealth away in order to help others. So she might have started out rich, but she was doing her best not to stay that way. My best guess, though, is that she was about in the middle.
It's neat that a poor lady, a rich lady, and a middle lady all found ways to help someone else, and they were happy to do it.
That's a great observation. Freeman, sometimes I think you're just about the smartest person I know.
I try to be. Now, I've got lots to do on the helping board. If you don't mind, I'll sign off for now. Got to get to work.
Well, I don't mind at all. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with.
Carlos Freeman, signing off now. Over and out.
Goodbye, Guy.
In my rest promise you won't let go. In the questions your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my trouble sea. Oh, you are the peace in my trouble sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. My lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. I won't fear what tomorrow brings. With each morning I'll rise and sing. My God's love will lead me through. You are my peace in my trouble sea. Oh, you are the peace in my trouble sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. My lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. Hey! Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. My lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore.
Wow, thanks, Carlos and Mrs. Young. Those Bible stories gave us a lot to think about. And this week, let's all try to help others in tangible ways. May it be through food or sharing your toys, clothing. I mean, this summer has been very hot, so water would be a great tangible way to help someone out. If you think of anything, let us know. We would love to hear from you and learn from your experiences. Next Sunday, join us as we look at ways to help others in intangible ways. Generally, the end of a church service has a blessing, something that we call a benediction. A benediction means a good word. It's something that is meant to encourage us. This week, our benediction, or our good word, comes from the Bible book of 2 Thessalonians. May our Lord Jesus Christ himself and God our Father, who loved us and by his grace gave us eternal encouragement and good hope, encourage your hearts and strengthen you in every good deed and word. Amen.